We are so glad that you can join us this afternoon. My name is Colleen McMillan, and I am the Scientific Co-Director at the KDE Hub, located at the University of Waterloo, Ontario. So I will be introducing today's webinar, and my colleague and Scientific Co-Director, Dr. Alice Schmidt-Hanbich, will be doing the closing for us at 2 p.m. So I'd like to start today's webinar with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge that Renison University College is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Neutral peoples, which is situated on the Haldimand Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River from mouth to source. Our active work toward reconciliation takes place in all corners of our campus through research, learning, teaching, community building, and outreach. We are guided by the work of our Reconciliation and Restoring Steering Committee and Anti-Racism and Decolonization Spokes Council, as well as the University of Waterloo's Office of Indigenous Relations. Our webinar this afternoon focuses on creating engaging social media content, lessons learned from a social pro. And the content and the idea for this webinar comes from listening to many of the projects in the Hub's network that are using social media in a variety of ways that we have heard consistently for a desire for supports that really will look at how to explore effective use of social media and how to reach that audience in a very genuine way. We also want to acknowledge that there is so much to explore within the space of social media use, including the relationship between social media and mental health and the many, many factors that impact this relationship. And we have a very timely example of this to share with you, actually, with the recent US Surgeon General's advisory about the effects of social media on youth mental health. And that link will be in the chat if you'd like to explore that a little bit further. So to this end, we at the Hub are very excited to offer this webinar, which will focus on using social media more effectively as part of your project work. Today, our guest speaker will provide a broad overview to the topic as compared to speaking about specific populations. And as always, we would love if you would let us know what other topics related to social media are of interest to you and would help you in your work. And you can do that in a couple of ways. You could do that in our webinar feedback survey. And again, a link will be posted in the chat for you. Or you can simply just post some ideas that you have in the chat box itself. So who's joining us today? We have a variety of people. Our webinar today is open to the Mental Health Promotion Innovation Fund, or MHPIF, supporting the mental health of those most affected by COVID-19, MH-COVID, and the mental health in the early years, or the Mighty project team members and those networks. So now just a few words about our guests, and then we'll actually start the webinar. So our guest today is Tim Campbell-Smith, pronouns he and him. Tim is a digital marketing trainer and speaker and is a Canadian and global consultant on social media engagement. In addition to being a consultant and providing corporate digital training, he still finds time to teach at the college and university level. You will soon find that Tim brings his huge enthusiasm and his positive energy to us today, and we warmly welcome him. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to you, Tim.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining. Energy and enthusiasm. I've never had those words associated with me before, so that's a new one for me. We can laugh at that to start with. So thank you so much. I'm so excited to be talking to you today and with you today about content, social media, social media content. And we're going to unpack a lot. Yes, we're going to generally keep a pretty broad approach to this, but you're going to find we get into some really cool, some very exciting specifics. So it's going to be all about creating content and effective content on social media. First question I'd love, and it's here on the screen. Let me know, put it in the chat box, which, by the way, I'm going to use this chat box a lot. I'm going to encourage you to use it so I can see things and we can interact together. What social media platforms are you personally using? If I can start to get a temperature read in the room on the types of social media we're using and the platforms we're using, I can then gear examples and other details towards that. So definitely feel free to put that in the chat there. If, and I've got my email in there, tim@timcampbellstrategist.com. I suspect some of you might be like me, where you go to a webinar like this and you take in a lot and we're going to cover a lot. And then afterwards you go, oh, I should have asked or I should have said. That's why I put my email there. So if you have any follow-up questions from anything we talk about today, please give me a shout and I would be more than happy to follow up on anything we cover. Thank you so much for putting all of these in. I'm seeing a flood here. I'm seeing a huge amount of Facebook, a lot of Instagram. I think I'm surprised on how many Twitters I'm seeing, which is good and exciting and very cool. A lot of TikToks, websites. Okay, this is great. Thank you so much for filling this in for me. Thank you. Here's our agenda for the day. Here's what I'm hoping that we're gonna make it through. We're gonna talk about before we even start talking about content, before we even talk about what we can post, we should talk about the platforms and the platforms that we choose or that we don't choose. We're then going to talk about the raw case for what makes good content, right? On all these platforms that we're all using, what makes the content that we actually like engaging with. Then we're going to go on to content formats and options. Formats tends to help us frame the conversation a little bit better, so a lot more makes sense. After that, we're going to wrap it up by talking about measuring success. As a digital marketer, I kind of come from this belief, if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. You've got to measure it one way or another. And I have some tips and strategies for you on that. And then an open Q&A at the end. Now, please note, we will be having questions throughout, and there will be time for questions, and there's going to be lots of discussion question time. So you don't absolutely have to hold it until the end. There will be times throughout, but we will also have a dedicated time at the end of today. So you heard that introduction. My name is Tim. Biggest thing I just want to share is that I use he, him pronouns when referring to me, and let me know yours. Make sure to put it on your name or in the chat so I know the best way to refer to you. Here are my big goals for us. Here's what I want you to hold me accountable to by the end of today. By the end of today, I'm really hoping that you have a clear idea on why we use the platforms that we use, and especially in a mental health context. I'm hoping that you can start to match platforms to ideal content types and formats, especially for mental health promotion, and to know at least one metric that you may measure to know if what you're doing is working. So here's my other question that I need as many people to fill out as possible so I know exactly where to start from. When you think of social media content, so here I am, you've come to this webinar, and here I am saying social media content, what comes to mind? It can be anything, a thought, a feeling. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Anything that comes to mind. When you think of social media content, what comes to mind? Okay, influencers, brands, videos, posts, information, memes. This is a lot, okay, and quite a range. Okay, use overwhelming, hard to fact check. That is what keeps me up at night. And trustworthy, yeah, those are things that I definitely worry about and think about every day as a digital marketer. News, memes, I'm also a huge meme fan, yes. Too much information, overwhelming, the validity of the information. Yeah, these are great suggestions and feedback. Thank you. Okay. Rabbit holes. Alice, that is an excellent description. Yes, trends and networking. Okay. Okay, I can work with this. We can springboard from this. Um, I don't like it. I feel like I'm not present in the moment when using it. Yeah, me too. Oftentimes, especially when I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling through Instagram or Threads, which we are going to talk a little bit about today. Sometimes I think like I am not as present to this world. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, this helps. Thank you, thank you, thank you for this. Let's start here. Content has to exist somewhere. You create this digital thing that people can interact with, it has to get posted somewhere. That's why we have to start with platforms. We also focused here because social media is kind of built on this idea of being present where other people are. Go where people are, spend time with them, the best reference I ever heard was comparing it to like a town square, right? When the actual center of a city was a town square, and that's where a lot of people met. Social media is now just the place where we meet. With platforms, and the way that I'm going to frame a lot of our conversation today, we tend to look at three things and three important considerations. The first, what is the largest demographic of people on a platform who are using a social media platform and therefore using content, consuming content and creating their own content and engaging with content? But we also look at, and this brings us to number two, the fastest growing demographic, because that will also inform a lot of things. If you want to use the hand raise feature, use it or put it in the chat. But has anyone heard this kind of, I think it's kind of a joke that we all make. Has anyone heard the joke that Facebook is now where our grandparents are or where older adults are? I say older, that includes me. I'm 32, but has anyone else heard this? Like Facebook, oh, that's where my parents are. So interestingly, though, the research doesn't always support that. People aren't as old on Facebook as I think people kind of make out to be. That's why we look at growing demographics on platforms. Oh my gosh, Magali, that is dinosaur's graveyard. That is a very funny comment. I've never heard that before. So this is why we look at growing demographics, because that will inform trends. One trend we're going to talk about with demographics is how there's an older group of adults who are joining en masse Instagram. We saw that happen with Facebook, right? And that informs then who's on the platform and how the platform gets used. So that's why we look at the fastest growing demographic as well. And then the third thing we look at is the culture or the ethos of a platform. Why do people use it? That's the way we're going to kind of frame this conversation on platforms. Now, I'm going to warn you, the next three slides, it's not two, sorry, it's three. The next three slides are a lot of information. And I normally don't put this much information on slides, but there's almost no other way around it. Don't try to memorize this. Refer to these for later. I've been doing this for over 6 years, 7 years if you count my part-time informally. I still go to charts like this, and I still reference this chart here, and I've been doing this for a long time. So don't feel like you have to memorize this. But we are going to review the largest demographic, the fastest growing demographic on each platform, and the culture or the ethos of the platform as well. So up first, I have YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Please note, we're also going to cover TikTok, Snapchat, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and I'm going to briefly talk about Threads, but we don't have a lot on Threads. YouTube, let me know, especially in the chat, do we love YouTube? On a personal level, I love YouTube. It's how I learn so much. YouTube is a video search engine for entertainment and how-tos are the biggest things there. We refer to it as a search engine because it acts like a search engine, and it is the world's second largest search engine, second only to its parent company, Google. So that kind of explains, why we think of it that way. The largest group of users is highly mixed on this because so many people access it. 25 to 34 is the largest demographic, but immediately and by a sliver of a percentage, followed by the 18 to 24 crowd, with slightly more males. Magali, excellent comment. Thank you. Yes. So generally 18 to 34 is your largest group of users, slightly more males, slightly more men, sorry. Fastest growing group of users though are 35 to 45-year-olds, and there's more women in that category. LinkedIn, professional networking. I'm going to say on the professional level, I love LinkedIn. If anybody wants to connect on LinkedIn, I would love that. This is about professional networking. The day has come and gone when it's about finding a job, and now it's about networking with other professionals. Largest group of users are 30 to 39-year-old men, and overwhelmingly men as well, followed by 40 to 49-year-old men as well. Then we have Twitter, which is still here, which is still alive. It's about fast information sharing, fast conversations, fast information, fast sharing. Something we look at in social media, and we're not going to talk about this today, but just for a fun reference, something we look at in content is something we call the half-life of a post. This comes from biology. It's the idea of how long does it take to reach the halfway point of a post going into oblivion where it never gets seen again. Twitter has the fastest half-life at 28 minutes. It only takes, so on average, 56 minutes for a tweet to go into oblivion, unless it goes viral. Versus YouTube, which has the longest half-life at approximately 5 years. So just to show you how fast it goes. Twitter main group is 25 to 34-year-old men, followed by 35 to 50-year-old men. It's not too much more men than women. With the three here, I'm also going to use this to talk about Threads. Let me start here. Put it in the chat. Has anybody heard of Threads? Is anybody on Threads? It is the newest social media platform that launched last week. Where are we at with Threads? Is anybody here on it or heard of it? Heard of it, not on it. Yes, not on it. Heard of it, not on it. Okay. I want to tackle a comment here from Jasmine. Thank you so much for saying it. I'm on it. I am, but I don't understand how it's different than Twitter. It's not really. It was designed to rival and compete and frankly beat out Twitter. So think Twitter as if designed by Instagram. Is really it. It's called, so Threads, let me quickly summarize it. So Threads is a Twitter competitor designed by Instagram. So it's about short and fast text. It has only been out for a week to the public. So it's brand new. That said, the latest stat that I heard this morning is that now it has hit 120 million downloads in 1 week. So very fast download. I think it has a lot of hype right now. There's a lot of features that aren't on it that a lot of people have noticed. So first one is no direct messages, no DMs. There's also no hashtags. Hashtags don't work. And we use hashtags on all other platforms. Images and videos don't perform as well. It's about plain text, sharing fast updates, and that's Threads. I don't have much more to report on Threads at this time, even though as a digital marketer, I love research, I love data. I think most of us in this room do. We don't have any research or data because it's so new. Firms haven't had access to data to study. So we don't have a whole lot to share on that. But otherwise, big thing to know with Threads, this new social media platform, it's gaining a lot of popularity and attention. It's a Twitter competitor designed by Instagram. So it's not Elon Musk, but it is created by Mark Zuckerberg and Adam Mosseri. And I will leave that to you to do as you will. Moving on to our next three platforms, TikTok, Snapchat, and Pinterest. TikTok is about humor and entertainment. The secret is make us laugh, hold our attention when it comes to TikTok. Now, that said, education and educational content also does really well on TikTok. We just find, though, that it has to be very short. So really bite-sized, easy to consume and to process. And there still has to be an element of entertainment to it. So the term that a lot of digital marketers are using now is called edutainment, is kind of the word for TikTok. 49% of users are 18 to 24 years old, and 53% of them are women. So there's a few more women than there are men right away on it. Followed by 25 to 35-year-olds, and again, slightly dominated by a little more women, which I don't know why, but I personally find that kind of surprising. But so it's all about entertainment, short form video that we can easily consume quickly. Next is Snapchat. So in the moment, it's behind the scenes, disappearing content. This gave birth actually to stories, which we most popularly have on Instagram. So typically on Snapchat, you create content, you send it to someone, it disappears right away after they've opened it. Unless you post it in stories, it can live for 24 hours and then it's gone. 39% of users are 18 to 24-year-olds and predominantly women, versus the fastest growing, which is 25 to 34-year-old, again, women as well. And please note, all of my references are at the end of the slide deck here as well, which is just good follow-up reading for any of you who especially like this demographical information. And then Pinterest. Let me know if there's any other Pinterest lovers in the room, but I love Pinterest. I'm coming up on 3 years of being married, and we had a pandemic wedding that was all through Pinterest. I love Pinterest. Pinterest, tall, vertical, usually images, ideas to hold on to for later. Greatest way I've ever heard it described, Pinterest is the only social media platform that gives us a relationship or an orientation towards the future. Think about it. Snapchat and Instagram focus more on in the moment. This is what is look at this picture, look at what is happening right now. Facebook and LinkedIn is more about the past. Look at what has happened. Look to the past. Pinterest is the only platform where we post things and say, I will use this later. I want to save this for later. So that's a key part of the content there. I was fascinated by the demographic information on Pinterest, though. 50 to 64-year-old women are the largest demographic, but 18 to 49-year-old women are the fastest growing demographic. And men are joining Pinterest faster too. More the Gen Z and those young millennials. So those folks between 16 and about 27, 28 are also growing. So I don't know about you, but I find that fascinating. Colleen, I totally see your question, and I'm going to tackle it once we get through the next slide with some other demographics, but good question. Our final three: Facebook, Instagram, and Reddit. And Colleen, actually, Reddit is going to be a really interesting platform to talk about with your question. So Facebook, which we've already briefly talked about. This is a catch-all platform, kind of does everything and is trying to do everything, right? Its core ethos, though, is about connecting people with communities and with each other that they want to connect with. So just like you have your friends that you go to text or you call when you want to talk to them about whatever, Facebook is kind of the social media equivalent of that. 35 to 44-year-olds, slightly more men than women, make up the largest group of Facebook users. However, the 24 to 35-year-olds are still growing, are still joining, and still using the platform. Then we have Instagram. It's the visual counterpart to Facebook. It's a visual catch-all platform. This, has some clear demographic differentiations, though. 61% of users, that's massive, are between the ages of 18 and 34. Slightly more men than women, which, again, I'm personally surprised by. But and then 35 to 50-year-olds, women are the fastest growing. And that's kind of indicative, like we saw with Facebook with more older adults who are joining Facebook, now we're starting to see them come to Instagram. I think anecdotally, that's mainly because, you know, we hear, I think of like, I'm going to use my parents as an example who say, oh, well, Tim, I don't really use Facebook anymore. And they say, but I know you're on Instagram. So I'm going to go to Instagram just to stay connected to you. So we think that's a reason why that trend is happening. Amanda, I'm also going to tackle that question in a moment, but I do have an answer for that. Reddit, the final one. And Reddit isn't normally a platform that we would include in presentations like this, but Reddit I started actually going down my own rabbit hole of content around the use of Reddit in mental health communities, and thought we can't not talk about Reddit when we talk about social media and mental health. So Reddit is a text-based, grassroots, community-led question and answer platform. Basically, you don't create an account like you normally, like you create an account and you just respond to people's questions and answers. You can create communities, but there's so many communities that you're far more likely to join one than you are to create one. So, and then people, you know, ask questions, share advice. Biggest groups, 18 to 29-year-olds, and 64% of them are men. So a large demographic for men. And then 30 to 49-year-old men are the fastest growing demographic. Okay. And the big claim to fame and why more and more people, more and more companies, just more people are looking to Reddit is because there's a deeper sense of niche community on Reddit than any other platform. We are starting to see niche communities emerge on TikTok. We've seen this on Tumblr before, which isn't as popular anymore. And that's why Reddit gets our attention. And I think we should talk about Reddit. I saw a couple questions here though, and they were really fabulous questions. So let's tackle these. The first one is from Colleen. Is there any rationale on why some platforms, you know, attack more males, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, as compared to females using TikTok, Snapchat, and Pinterest, or vice versa? I don't think they set out to target, you know, which is such marketing speak. And the word target, I have very mixed feelings about. I don't think platforms really set out to target people. It's more about the form and function. What does the platform do? And then who does that classically appeal to, why, and when? The easiest example that I can make is for LinkedIn. Think about who dominates boardrooms to this day. It's still men. So professional networking is more likely to have or attract men because they're trying to network that way. So I think it's more like we just see it kind of happen because of the form and function of the social media platform. But I certainly never heard of any platform that sought to target a certain demographic. Amanda also had a really fabulous question. The age range is only up to 50. No, the research does actually, it goes to 65 plus, which, don't get me wrong, is ageist for so many different reasons and problematic. Anybody 65 or older automatically gets relegated into the 65 plus category. The reason why I don't think any of the data that we've talked about today includes anyone over the age of 50 is because they don't make up the largest group of users on any platform. So that's why we're not seeing many people or ages above 50. Carrie asks, when was all this data collected? No, you didn't miss that information, Carrie. It's going to be included in the slide deck. The references are on the last slide, and I will show that slide at the end, and you can see all the research sources there. Good question. Two more questions, and then we're going to keep moving on here. Anna asks, have platforms that are a little more user organized been researched, like Discord? Not as well. The reason why the main organizations or businesses that do, I'm going to say do in quotes, social media research and this kind of research are platforms that schedule or use these social media platforms. So, and then a couple other larger bodies. So HubSpot, Hootsuite, Buffer, these are all platforms that use social media, that integrate with social media. They have access to mass amounts of data, which is why they're the producers of this research. We also tend to look at Statista, just because they have a lot access to a lot of resources. Pew Research is a really good one. The Edelman Trust Institute puts out some good stuff. And in the last 2 years, I find like the quality of their social media research has gotten a little better. So that's why we go to those. And that's kind of the big bodies that we go to for research. Last question here from Annetta, and then I'm going to move on. Charming question. Are these global or regional or local demographic data for the platforms? There is data on that, which I haven't included. I limited our stuff to North America, but the trends don't change terribly much from region to region. From country to country. The big ones, though, that are contentious, depending on where in the world you are, TikTok. It's banned in India and some other countries, but India is the largest country where it's banned, and like they're missing a big population of it. Facebook, because it's actually used far more often than we do here in the West, in North America. And Reddit are going to have some regional differences. The other big regional difference, but we haven't even talked about it today, it would have to be its own whole conversation, is WhatsApp. WhatsApp is an instant messaging platform and is used globally. And it's almost exclusively here in the West, in North America, where we don't use it. So that's the other platform that has a regional difference. Good questions. These are great. Thank you, friends. I just want to highlight quickly a couple points of interest, and then I have a question for all of you, so we can kind of, chew on this and digest it and work on it. TikTok users tend to want calming or funny content. And some commentary that I found actually in a couple different studies was that consumers and people want to be able to consume TikTok content easily, passively. They don't want to have to think too deeply about it. And I thought that was really insightful, that we want to learn, we want to consume good, high quality educational content, but nothing too deep that actually makes us work like too hard for it, which isn't a bad thing. Second, and I did mention this, I kind of jumped it and mentioned it early, but Reddit is famous for niche communities, especially around mental health and different support groups. And finally, Pinterest users are getting younger, and they are seeking more and diverse types of content. So a couple points of interest from the research as well. That said, let me just pause here. And I'm kind of getting an impression from the questions, but I want to ask, did any of these stats surprise you? If so, which ones? If not, why? Let me know your thoughts in response to the research here. Yeah, me too, Anne. Facebook mails surprised me as well. Anna, that's okay. I thought Twitter was on its way out years ago, and it's still here as well. That's fair. Yeah. Pinterest increasing younger demographics surprised me. Yeah. It's funny, Pinterest, I'm no longer so much surprised by the younger demographic joining Pinterest. I sometimes do guest speaking at high schools, and I like to ask the high school students, hey, which social media platforms are you using? And every class, there are a lot of Pinterest users and a lot of men who are using Pinterest. So it's one thing to read it, especially in research. It's another when you are looking at a room of especially high school students, and they say, yeah, we love using Pinterest, and here's why, here's how. My 16-year-old loves Pinterest. Amanda, your 16-year-old and I have that in common. So Celine has a question here, and then we'll move on from this. What do you think will transpire of emergent social media apps? Okay, so these are just my own hypotheses and theories. I think we're going to see less and less platforms try to be unique on their own, and we're going to see them more try and compete against each other. We've started to see this trend in the last 2 to 4 years, and I think it's only going to get worse, where they don't really release any new features. They just try to compete on top of each other. I think as well, platforms are going to more boldly move towards the reference point that I have is WeChat in China, where a social media platform tries to be everything and tries to be your everything. So in China, they have for anybody who doesn't know, there's an app called WeChat, and WeChat does everything. It was originally designed for instant messaging between people, but now you can do your banking on WeChat. You can book services. You can order products and do online shopping through WeChat. Everything you could want to do in your life, most of what you could want to do in your life, can be done through WeChat. And I think social media platforms are going to try and do that. They're going to try and be everything to everyone. And we're going to lose, niche reasoning for social media, each individual platform. That's just my own theory. Okay, I know I said last question, but I'm going to take these last two because I can do them pretty quick and then we'll move on. Any thoughts on Be Real? I think it's struggling to succeed. I think it's a fad. I don't think it's going to be here to stick. It doesn't offer something unique enough on its own, and we're not seeing it grow terribly well. And then Magali asks, is Discord also a social media? My kids are on that one. So technically, yes, this, and the academic in me loves a good definition. The definition of social media is any electronic platform or place where users create profiles and engage with each other. That is the technical definition. I apologize, I don't remember my source where I got that from, but that's the definition of social media. Discord is social media because now it's very lopsided where you have often one creator and you just have people watch, but because those people have to create profiles and can engage, that does make it social media. Technically, by definition as well, Twitch, which is very similar to Discord, is also a social media platform. Great question. So now that we've talked about the platforms and we've talked about some surprising demographics and some surprising uses, let's talk about the content that goes on those platforms. And let's start with, a personal reflection, because I'm going to use the term good content today. Good content is universal to all people. We all consume content all day, every day. You're here at this webinar. This is a form of content. I hope you think this is a good form of content. If you read a book, that's a form of content. If you were on TikTok, there is content. Here's what I want to ask. What's the last piece of content that got your attention? Or what's the last piece of content that you shared? And why did you share it? If you want to put that in the chat, what's the last piece of content that got your attention? What's the last piece of content that you shared? What was it? Why? So relatable to me in the moment, yep. Hagong Reels, Taylor Swift concert videos, a meme, a moving story, inspiring content. I think I'm gonna get my phone and check mine. I think mine is, yes, a meme that I sent to my husband. That's the last one I sent because it was very funny and we were talking about politics this morning. So it was a reflection of a conversation that we had and I thought it was very funny. So it was relatable and it was funny. Probably a meme because it was funny. TikTok with my daughters, it's funny. Mental health TikTok, news, cute puppies. I also love cute puppies and cute puppies memes. Cat videos. Mine was a French bulldog sleeping in a baby stroller. Katie, I love that. French bulldog sleeping in a baby stroller. Parenting advice from a psychologist. Yeah, amuse me, trigger. Exactly, lunch and learn ad. So there's universal themes here, right? There are things that are funny, things that are relatable, things that are informative, and that are useful. Content is not rocket science. It is not that special. It is not that difficult. It really comes down to what is it that we share and we appreciate and why. Strong content is anything that people want, welcome or need, benefit from one need or another, or that we enjoy. The other list I want to put in your back pocket is this. All content, all of the content you will ever see on social media ever breaks down into one of four categories. It's actually usually a combination, but it will do at least one of four things. That content will educate, it will shock, it will inspire, or it will make us laugh. Okay? It's usually a combination, but it must be bold and unapologetic. I want you to, something you can do, especially after today, when you're going through content and when you're scrolling through, Pinterest or YouTube or whatever platform you're on, ask yourself, do I think this person is trying to educate me, to shock me, to inspire me, or make me laugh? Now, if you can't totally tell, that's probably because it's watered down. It hasn't been done terribly well, but it's always trying to do one of those four things: educate, shock, inspire, make us laugh. The other thing, though, that I want to say, especially for those of us who may have to create content in mental health promotion, inspiring is a goal of content, but it is often the most abused goal of content. To inspire is to cause such an emotional response that it incites a change in behavior. So if you're going to try and inspire someone, you've got to make sure you make them feel a deep emotion that causes a change in behavior. It's real easy for us to say, oh, we love inspiring content. We love creating inspiring content. You've got to make sure you actually inspire. That's important. So I have some examples of what makes good content and why it makes good content. And ironically, and I'm so glad to hear this, my three examples that I'm about to show all fit into things that people have said and put in the comments here. So memes are a really popular one. What makes memes good content? It's based on humor and it's based on relatability. People tend to share them, amplifying our names and our efforts. But when it comes to, and I'm going to use memes as the vehicle to talk about this, when it comes to sharing content, I want you to keep this in mind. People share content because it reveals a part of them, not because it reveals a part of whoever posted it. It's about what reveals a part of them. When I shared the political meme with my partner, he and I are very politically engaged people. It's kind of a way of me saying, I am politically engaged. Here's what I am thinking about politics. So keep that in mind. But memes, even though it is revealing of the person who's sharing it, it's based on humor and relatability. I do see this one question, and I want to hop back from this from Carrie here. What about promote? Or does that not fit in, or does that fit into one of those four? Promotion should still make us feel something. It should still cause an action. Think about what you're promoting. So if you're promoting a new group program for teens experiencing social anxiety and anxiety around being around other people, well, we want the group to make them feel something, and your post can make them feel something. I would think, I'm going to just run with this example around like promoting a group for teens experiencing social anxiety. I think that post should really educate and inspire, right? Talk about, a small enough group, even if the group is just 4 people, it's not many people, and coming together in community is a good thing. And you can talk about all the benefits of being in a community, especially for mental health. That is something I'm passionate about, is why mental health shouldn't always be like a one-on-one thing. It should be a group thing. So you can educate and inspire that way. Promoting should still fall into one of these 4 categories, where you are trying to educate, shock, inspire, or make us laugh. Laughing is going to be the hard one in mental health, and I'm going to hold space for that. Making us laugh is going to be a hard one. This is a tough topic to use humor in, but it could be possible. Yeah. I'm glad that helped. And thank you so much, Carrie. That's a really, really excellent question. Next, infographics. What makes infographics just such great content? Well, there's a few reasons. It's easy to share. It's usually packed with information, but in a bite-sized, easy to consume way. They're also really easy to repurpose. So you can take this tall one. This one, I've designed this to be optimized for Pinterest, but you can easily condense this into 2 or 3 squares that we can slide side to side. So it's good for Instagram or TikTok. Easy to share, bite-sized. What makes videos and infographic videos or informative videos good content? It builds a personal connection, especially mental health is a high trust topic where we kind of have to trust and have some rapport with whoever's posting it. Videos allow us to build that connection, and it honors the most popular type of content, which is video. We're going to talk about this in a little bit, but algorithms are mathematical formulas that decides who sees what when on social media platforms. Platforms love videos, except Reddit and Threads. So videos, educational infographic videos, also a great form of content. My example here is a psychologist I love following on TikTok, Dr. Julie, who I thought was a cool example for this as well. I see a couple comments and questions here, so I'm just going to field these quickly. Alexandra says, I love infographics, but I find it difficult to make good ones with some kind of content, especially if we're not a graphic designer. Agreed. Let me tell you my secret. I'm going to let you in on the secret. Keep it just between you, me, and our Instagram followers. I made this on Canva, and I followed a template. I'll put the link here in the chat. If you don't already use it, use the free version. Don't pay for it. But I love Canva. I'm not a graphic designer myself, and Canva is how I survive. So just make this into a template and follow it that way. Yeah. And then Jude asks, how can we make our infographics unique in a social media world that is saturated with infographics? Yeah, that's a really good question. If anything, one, just make sure like your colors are really intentional. I find there's this trend in infographics where it's extreme. There's either too many bold colors, so it's way too much to look at, or there's no color, there's not enough color. So use your colors really intentionally. I think the other thing to make your infographic stand out, less is more. The trend right now around infographics, and what I'm seeing a lot of from businesses in particular, mind you, I work with a lot of small businesses, so that's where a lot of my experience comes from, as they put way too much information into an infographic. Less is more. I try to keep it to, and I followed it on this example here, no more than 3 short lines of text for every image. That way you have enough images. And you've got to remember, infographic needs to balance images with text. Oftentimes folks forget the images there. So I'd start there. I hope that helps. Yes, Emma, Adobe Express. If I ever get 2 weeks off from work, learning Adobe and all of the Adobe and Adobe Express and Adobe Illustrator as well is on my list. Yes, my graphic designer friends who use it, the stuff they create is beautiful. So yeah. Kelly, excellent point. Yes, do break down your infographics into slide by slide Instagram posts. Easy way to repurpose, easy way to slide through. That's just a really smart idea. Yeah, great question. Thank you, friends. Just some other content choices that might be, and I think are really helpful in social media, in particular, or sorry, for mental health. Downloads, anything that we can download, in particular guides, create, and a guide doesn't have to be terribly special. It doesn't have to be over the top. You could just say 7 tips, 7 ways to practice mindfulness today. And it's an 8-page PDF that you create electronically. 1 page is the title page, sorry, 9 pages. 1 is the title page. 1 is the conclusion page with your organization's information on it. And then just 1 tip per page on mindfulness. Downloads, a guide. The equivalent of that, where you don't have to download it, would be a blog or an article. And then long form videos. We've talked a lot about, short form videos, but we can do long form videos as well, kind of like what we'd expect to see on YouTube. So let me ask this. Out of the 4 types of content, we talked about shocking, inspiring, humorous, or educational. What kind of content do you prefer to consume? Do you have any thoughts? Do any one of those types of content jump out to you? What kind of content do you prefer to consume? Humorous, educational, inspiring? Oh, Magali, I'm with you. I consume a lot of humorous content, but I share a lot of educational content. Yeah. I think I would say my favorite is that edutainment, if it's educational and funny at the same time. Yeah, I would say it's my favorite. Okay. A lot of humorous people here. We like humorous content. So then what I would encourage you to think about is that content you love consuming. How can you create more content like that honors that? Moving along, let's talk about formats and options. Um, Content is often, and I use the word governed for lack of a better word, by algorithms. Those are mathematical formulas that decides who sees what when. There are some things that we can do to influence the algorithm so that our content gets seen by more people. There are other things we can't control. And there's a lot of things we don't know, often because the engineers don't know. A social media platform might tell us 20 different things, but actually, here's an example. Instagram, Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, recently came out and said how Instagram ranks content and told us about 20 to 25 different factors. But then he also said that there are thousands of social signals that those algorithms use. So there's some things we know and that we can manipulate. There's some things we know we can't manipulate, and there's some things we just don't know. We're going to focus on what we can control. And oftentimes, the type of content that we post, the format, is a really easy thing we can control so that we have excellent content on social media. Every platform has a favorite or ideal type of content. Now, that said, even though it's ideal, even though it's a favorite, almost all content formats are available to you. There are a couple exceptions, and I will name them. But if you're prioritizing reach and discoverability, so getting seen by more people, getting discovered by more people, having more people interact with your content, then we say try for the ideal content formats, which is here on this list. Again, don't try to memorize this. It's a lot, and especially if this is all brand new to you. But every platform has something that is unique to it or that it prefers. The first one is live video and video on Facebook. So Facebook loves live videos. Obviously, though, there is not always a time and a place for live video. So that's a bit of a harder one. If you can't do live video, then we would say try organic video. And what I mean by organic video is just anything anytime you take a video and you post it on that platform, in this case, it's Facebook. If you take a video and you put it on YouTube, and then you share the YouTube link onto Facebook, it's easy to interact with that video, to watch that video on Facebook, but it does not organically live on Facebook. It lives on YouTube. So Facebook loves live video and then organic video. Instagram, this is new. This is new in the last couple of months. Instagram loves carousel images and then a single image. Instagram used to love Reels. Again, Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, had come out and said, no, Reels haven't worked. People don't love them as much as we thought we would love them. So it's about carousels. It's about carousel images and carousel posts. Yes, Katie, live video is the same as live video streaming. Good clarification. Thank you for asking. On TikTok, those tall, short videos are popular, followed by live videos. On Snapchat, videos between users is popular, then images. On YouTube, shorts. YouTube is trying to compete with TikTok. So those tall, vertical, 1 minute or less videos are what's popular now. On LinkedIn, PDF posts. They end up showing up just like a carousel on Instagram. But yeah, LinkedIn loves PDF posts, then followed by videos. I'm gonna actually pause here because I'm seeing a couple clarifying questions that I really should clarify. A carousel versus a reel. So a carousel is a series of images that you swipe through on. A video is just a single video that you watch. Big thing is carousels are images, reels are videos. Tall video is just that. It's tall, it's vertical. It doesn't show horizontally, it shows vertically. So a carousel video, I guess if you combine them, but we don't really have them on social media, would be like if you had a series of videos that you swipe through on. Actually, no, you can technically do that on Instagram, but it wouldn't work. And Pinterest, you can do it on Pinterest, but it wouldn't work anywhere else. Good clarifying questions. Thank you so much, friends. Pinterest loves video idea pins. Idea pins are Pinterest's equivalent of Instagram stories. So they go at the top of the feed, they're top of mind for 24 hours, and then they go live on the board where you post them. And then tall, regular pins are popular on Pinterest. On Reddit, plain text is the ideal content. On Reddit, Reddit doesn't have a secondary, like second favorite content. It's just text. Text is the go-to on Reddit. And then followed by Twitter, which interestingly, images are more popular, and then videos. Again, you don't have to try and memorize any of this. Refer to the slide deck afterwards as well, or screenshot this slide. Even though I've been doing this for 7 years, sometimes I still have to think back to, what is the best type of content to post on this platform? And sometimes you got to check and make sure it's up to date. Some folks, shared here in the chat sentiment with me, like, I am surprised as well that PDFs are doing as well as they are doing on LinkedIn. And I thought Reels were going to be here forever on Instagram, but nope, they're not as popular. That said, this can be a lot to take in. And I want to share with you my trick. This is what I do on a daily basis, a weekly basis, to stay on top of social media that anyone can do. And I call this conscious consumption. Conscious consumption is the intentional reflecting on what you see. And in this case, in regards to social media, asking yourself, like, how are you reacting to it? How do you think others are reacting to it? Why do you think the original poster made that post in the first place? Slowing that down to intentionally take stock of the content is a really helpful strategy to developing and creating strong content as well. And speaking of skills that we can build in content, I do want to share this trick, and I shared it with the team, and then we thought, like, we have to talk about this. Whenever you're creating content, especially around mental health, there's so much we can talk about. It can be overwhelming. There's so much we could include. But something important in social media is attention span and how it is diminishing. And a simple solution to writing content that doesn't overwhelm us is what I call the one-to-one-to-one strategy. Content should be short, simple, easy to consume. And an easy way to teach this is with this one-to-one-to-one strategy. So this is where in a post, you would share one high-level potential concern. And please note, we're going to go over a few examples, actually. You share one high-level concern, one high-level or potential solution, usually like a category, and then an immediate day. We use this mainly in posts when we're trying to teach a concept. So one high-level concern, one high-level solution, and then a tactic. So an example, you might say, if you have an upset stomach, you would write your post and start it this way. If you have an upset stomach, it may be from hunger. So one thing you can do to combat hunger is to eat a snack. I tried to make this as literal and direct and easy to digest. Get it? Digest food. I thought that was clever as possible. So we have your high-level concern, which is an upset stomach. A high-level potential solution, which is combating that hunger by eating, and your tactic is to eat a snack. Another example, if you find yourself easily upset, bothered, or annoyed. And please don't, I'm not a mental health expert. I just kind of put this together based on my own thoughts. So run with it, if you will, with me. If you find yourself easily upset, bothered, or annoyed, it may be because of a lack of sleep. To beat that, try going to bed at the same time every night and getting up at the same time and ensuring that there's 8 hours of sleep. Your high-level concern is that easily upset, annoyed, bothered. Your potential high-level solution is sleep. And the tactic is going to bed and getting up at the same time where you have 8 hours of sleep, right? So again, it's applied there. You have one high-level problem, one high-level strategy, and one tactic. Using that to teach can really, really help. Just make your content, one, get discovered a little bit easier. People are more likely to share, and it's going to stick with them a little longer. That said, I've been talking a lot. Let me quickly check in with all of y'all. What kinds of content do you tend to see a lot of? On what platforms? Are you seeing a lot of educational content on TikTok? Are you seeing a lot of entertainment on Pinterest? What are you seeing a lot of? This comes down to that skill of conscious consumption, which is a really handy skill when learning social media. So what are you seeing? And thank you, Maya. I'm glad that those are great tricks. Ads, agreed. There's a lot of ads. There's a reason why, but it's a little outside the scope of today. So we can talk offline about why we're seeing so many more ads right now. AI content, yeah. Product placement. Podcasts on YouTube, yes. YouTube, that's a new frontier for YouTube. They're trying to get into the podcast space. Events. Yeah, educational content on TikTok. Me too. I went down like a nursing healthcare rabbit hole on TikTok a few days ago, and now it's all the content I'm seeing is educational healthcare on TikTok. Podcast, Spotify, parenting, education. Okay. So this intentional, like taking stock, noticing what you're seeing more of, seeing what you're not seeing, helps us just be kind of better creators of content. Yeah, these are great. Thank you. Quick contest. I don't know about y'all, but I am very competitive and I want to check and see how some of this is landing. But I want to check your thoughts and understanding on content. We are going to play a game of matching. I want you to match the platform to the ideal type of content and put it in the chat, your platform and content format. So I would like you to match. We put it in the chat and say, like, I think, what type of content do you think is best for TikTok? What type of content do you think is best for Reddit? What do you think is best for Instagram? What do you think is best for Facebook? Let's put it in the chat and have a contest and see how well we do. Check our understanding quickly. Reddit plain text, TikTok tall videos. There we go. All the responses. Live, TikTok tall, perfect. Great. These are a lot of responses to read very quickly. Thank you all for playing along with it. Facebook Live videos. Reddit in text. Perfect. I'll give maybe another 30 seconds and then I'll show the answers. See how well we do. Facebook Live videos. Insta carousel, Twitter images. Perfect. Okay. Okay, I'm going to show the answers. Here we go. TikTok, remember, loves tall videos. Reddit loves plain text. Instagram loves carousel images, not reels anymore. That was a trick question. And Facebook loves live videos. And I don't think I saw anyone who got it wrong. Marlo coming in here with YouTube Shorts. Yes, not even one that was asked. Excellent. Thank you all for playing along on that. Let's start to bring this on with measurement, which is the actual thing that I nerd out the most about this. If you don't measure it, it doesn't exist. Just like with program evaluation, we have to measure content too. There's lots of ways we can measure it. I could talk about measurement for days, weeks, probably months. That said, it's so easy to get lost in data. It's so easy to get lost in the weeds. Most measurement is contextual, and it actually comes down to what you think is most important. So we're going to go over that. So the first thing that I want to start us off with what we could measure is reach. Reach is the unique number of individuals who saw something. It's about people. Opposite of that is impressions, which is the number of times something has been seen. So today, I notice on my screen, there's 86 of us, right? And we've all been looking at our screens. So we would have reach of 86, because there's 86 of us, but we might have 8,600 impressions because we've looked at our screen 100 times. Impressions is always going to be more than reach. Reach, though, is the unique number of individuals. We like looking at reach because it's a benchmark number for other data. If you have 10,000 followers, but your reach for your account in the last month is only 1,000, it means almost nobody's seeing your content. Reach provides that context, that benchmark that we use. Reach is available on all platforms, right? So you would say, our Instagram post on mindfulness reached 300 people last month. That's reach. Then we have click-through. Click-through is how many clicks people do from your content. If it has an external link, how many people actually clicked it. There's two ways of expressing this number. It can be a raw independent number. So you can say we got 100 clicks last month, or it could be a rate. We had a 3% click-through rate. Out of 100 posts, we got 3 clicks, 3% click-through rate. We measure it if you're trying to direct people away from social media onto another platform. It really just tells us how many people intended to take an action, right? And that's how we start to measure interest and desire and action from there. Saves. Saves refer to the number of people who save content for later. It tells us how engaging or important the content was. Saves are immediately available on Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And now I actually think it's available on Threads as well. I'd have to double check that one though. For example, people are more likely to save an infographic. So if you do an infographic, like a teaching post on a social connection for mental health, we would measure how many times was this saved? How many times did someone say, this is really important, I want to hold on to this for later? Next is engagement. Engagement measures how many people clicked, shared, saved, or commented on a post. There's an intentional metric that I am excluding from this definition of engagement. Clicked, shared, saved, or commented. Does anyone have a guess what metric I have excluded from this, from engagement? What am I not including in this definition? Hera, you're right. Alexandra, correct. Likes. We don't include likes. Most people in digital marketing spaces do not include likes because it's too easy to manipulate. It's too easy to get lost in the sea of notifications. So we don't include likes. We measure clicks, shares, saves, and comments. It tells us how interactive our content was, how people used it. Did they use the content? It usually has to be, calculated manually. There are some platforms that you can pay for to calculate it. But I don't know about you, but my favorite words are free and cheap. So if I know how to do it manually, I will do it manually myself for free. So, and it's always benchmarked against, there's a couple exceptions, but it's usually measured against followers. So if you have 1,000 followers and last month you got 200 clicks, saves, shares, or comments, you have a 20% engagement rate, which is actually really high. That is astronomically high in social media. Kelly, yes, we could talk about this for hours. How about followers? Is it similar to likes that it can be manipulated the same way? Yes, but not as easily. Followers are a little bit harder to manipulate, especially because right now, social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, most notably, are trying to crack down on fake users. So LinkedIn right now, if it hasn't happened to you already, you may find in the next few months, the number of connections in your network decreases probably by actually, but it's relative to your network. And that's because LinkedIn is cracking down on fake accounts and followers. So yeah, good question. Some suggestions when it comes to measurement. Measure the same thing consistently. We want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, oranges to oranges, comparing a steak to an apple, and comparing an apple to the color of the sky, and comparing this color of the sky to what your mom is wearing. These are incompatible comparisons. We want to make sure that we compare the same things. It's easiest to do it month over month, always measuring the same thing at the same time of the month. I also say blend your qualitative and your quantitative methods. Data gives answers, but qualitative analysis tells stories. And often with data, we need stories. So if we looked month over month, you might see, okay, in the month of May, you had a spike of followers. Well, if you don't have anything qualitative to comment on why you got a spike of followers, the data can't tell you too much. So that's why we always say, mix your qualitative and your quantitative data and analysis. I do see a couple questions here in the chat, and I'm going to tackle them on the next slide with one of our last discussion questions. So I promise I'll get to them in a moment. But make spreadsheets your best friend. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can do it on one spreadsheet, on one booklet. Just make sure you're comparing month over month the exact same things. If you can, integrate visuals for storytelling. That's ideal. Visuals tell stories a lot faster and a lot easier. You just got to make sure you're telling the most accurate and honest story, though, because, you know, statistics 101, we can use data to tell any story we want it to. So just make sure you use the best. I like the nods of approval. Make sure you use the best and the most accurate data to tell the story of what's actually happening. And always understand why you're measuring what you're measuring. A common question I get, you know, people say, Tim, why do followers matter? Well, if no one's following you and no one's choosing to consume your content, what else are they going to do? Are they going to do anything else? So understand why you're measuring what you're measuring and measure what is most important, which we'll come to in a moment. But let me check in here. We covered a few metrics here today. Is there any particular metric that you think you would be tracking first in your efforts? What do you think is most important? And it can be a metric, or it can just be anything you think is worth tracking. While you put that in the chat, I'm going to answer a couple questions here. Victoria, does the importance of each metric change based on the app? Yes. For some platforms reward certain metrics more than they do others. Pinterest notoriously measures saves more than anything else. Instagram is looking at shares and comments. So yes, it kind of does depend on each platform. Yeah. Katie, are there benchmarks for what is considered a good number with each of these measures? The fact that 20% is very high engagement. Yes. Yes, but the only kind of benchmark metric we can kind of comment on is engagement rate and click-through rate, sorry, those two. Be prepared to be underwhelmed, but be overwhelmed. The average engagement rate we seek on social media is 2%. In all of my work with folks, if we can get 2% engagement, so 2 people commenting, sharing, and clicking for every 100 people, that's really good. Yeah, there are fluctuations and differences depending on your industry. There's no way I'm finding and reciting all of that data for you, but like to summarize the whole thing, on average, we look for a 2% engagement rate. Click-through rate, we look for about 3%. So 3 people for every 100 who click through on your post that have a link and click through and go somewhere else. Yeah, good questions. Metrics that we're measuring. Engagement. I'm glad to see engagement. I think engagement is a very important metric. It's an underutilized metric. So I'm really glad to hear that. Bringing this home, a final trick. And I know it's obvious, and this is the consultant in me starting with the obvious, but I want to end with the obvious. Do more of what's important. We, for the last hour and almost a half hour, have just been talking about content, staring down content, and exploring, hopefully, you know, lots of ideas and possibilities. I want you to do more of what is important and what you think is important. If you want to reach more people, go for more reach. Measure for reach. Add hashtags to increase your discoverability. If you want more saves, create more infographics, more informative videos that people want to save. If you want clicks, post more, do more posts with links that you can click. Do more of what you think is important. Always make sure to match your goals to what you measure, to what you post. Nothing breaks my heart more than, and this morning I was meeting with a client and they said, Tim, why aren't we getting any sales? Why is no one, clicking through and buying our stuff? And I looked through their content and I said, well, you never post links to go purchase. You're not giving us what you want us to do, and you're barely measuring it. So make sure you match your goals, what's most important to you, to what you measure, to what you post. A quick summary, recap. Be on the platforms where people are and where you want to appeal to them. Each platform loves a different type of content. Keep that in mind if you're aiming for reach and discoverability. All content is either inspiring, shocking, humorous, or educational. Be bold in your approach to whatever it is, and measure what is most important to you. Final question that I'm always excited to ask. After today, you get off this webinar in 12 minutes and you leave and you go cool down because it's very hot out. What's the first thing that you do? What's the first thing that you're going to do after today and after this webinar? Rachel, spreadsheets. Rachel, you and I should be friends. Yes. Email. I like it. Checking metrics. Yes. Check the data, check the metrics, and then go from there. Follow me on Instagram. Yes. Figure out our goals. Organize and save notes. These are great. Yes. Actually, I think I would also organize and save my notes and compartmentalize them. I'm a avid note taker on things like this. Yeah. We're kidding. I'll be sharing your slides and recording them. Excellent. I'm glad. Trying to post more memes. More memes. On a personal level, I would like to advocate for more memes. Yeah. Draft content using one-to-one to connect with you, Tim, on LinkedIn. Please do, Amanda and anybody else on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. Not Twitter. I'm not there anymore. Download Threads. Awesome. I'm going to formally thank everyone, and then we have just a few minutes for Q&A. But friends, I want to thank you so much for spending a very warm Wednesday afternoon talking with me about social media and content. If you're like me, you go to a webinar and then afterwards you go, oh, I forgot I should have talked about this. Please send me an email. I'm putting it in the chat, Tim at Tim Campbell Strategist. If you have any follow-up questions from what we've talked about today, I'd be more than happy to clarify or provide additional resources. We're going to go to an open Q&A in a couple moments here. Here are my references as promised, and these will be included in the slide deck. I believe the links are still clickable, so you can click and access them. I'm now realizing the data was from no later than 2022, but it's either 2022 or sometimes 2023 data. So I think we have about 3 questions before I'm going to pass it back to my friend Alice. So does anyone have any burning questions if you want to put it in the chat from anything we've talked about today? I see Kelly's question here first. And the chat is moving on here. I have a question. I find it hard to post links sometimes on Instagram. What's the best way to do this? We use the bio and link tree. Is that effective enough? Yes, because that's all we can do. Links aren't clickable. They don't work in posts, so we have to go to the link in bio. So I know it's not ideal, but you are doing the best that any of us can do on Instagram. Thank you, Monica, for your kind words. Hannah asked, are there any spreadsheet templates you'd recommend? No, I don't like any of them, and there's not many. But if you send me a personal email, I'll send you mine and the one that I use. And I'm happy to give that out, or I can actually just share it with my friends at KDE Hub, and they can distribute it actually. Because I don't know about you, but I love a good spreadsheet. Victoria asks, in working with clients, do you start with goals and then evaluation plans? What's the step-by-step? I always start with organizational goals. social media only, if in a business context, only exists to serve our goals. So we always start with the goals, we always start with the strategic direction, and then we just match whatever we're trying to achieve with whatever we can do on social media. And then from there comes our tactics. And then we actually do the thing, because remember, social media is something you have to do. You have to create the content, and we go from there. So I hope that helps. Great question. And thank you all for your kind words. Would you consider a GIF a video? Sarah asks. How does that type of content align with Twitter, for example? Yeah, so GIFs function like photos. I would say it's much more like a photo, and it counts for credit, and at least from everything I've seen, and the way that it gets reach and engagement. Good question. That's kind of the same for all evaluation, isn't it? Goal, action, evaluation. Yes, I think so. And I know we could spend hours talking about best practices and protocols in goal setting and strategy setting. So, but yeah, I generally look at overall goals, organization. Then we set our social media goals, tangible actions, do it, evaluate, and then redo, and then redo the whole process. So with that, I am at my time. So I'm going to hand it back to my friend Alice here. And again, friends, thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Tim. That was awesome. We really appreciate you sharing your many lessons from a social media pro. You offered us guidance with your energy and enthusiasm on choosing various platforms for use with mental health information. To create good or compelling content, you shared the 1-1-1 strategy. You also offered measurement suggestions to track our success when we're using social media as an important aspect of using the various platforms. By understanding the why you're measuring, of what you're measuring, you need to understand the metrics. You also asked us to think about creating content with purpose, to educate, to shock, to inspire, or to make us laugh. You modeled all 4 aspects in your presentation beautifully. Thanks as well to all our audience members today for your engaging participation and all the comments. We really appreciate your interactive comments, suggestions, questions. We look at them all, and Tim, thank you for moderating that. Yes, we will. Lubna, thank you. We will be sharing the slides with you. We always do an event brief for all our webinars, and that will be coming out soon. We share a summary, we share the slides. They were shared as well with the link this morning or yesterday when we sent out the reminder invitation, so you can have a copy of that. We would also really encourage you to let us know what else you'd like to explore related to social media by responding to our feedback survey. It's a really short feedback survey, about 1 to 2 minutes maximum. Put your comments in the chat. Annetta will be sharing the link. There it is. Thank you, Annetta, for that. We also have an upcoming webinar, a community of practice webinar coming up in the next month or so. And we have multiple webinars later this summer and this fall. We encourage you to sign up for a newsletter to stay up to date with our activities and upcoming events. And Annetta just shared our newsletter link in the chat. And we will also share the webinars in the newsletter that's coming up. Feel free to access our collection of resources on our KDE Hub website. You can follow us on Twitter, and please send us any of your questions, comments, anything you'd like to see from us. We're happy to chat with each of you, and we look forward to seeing you at future webinars. Thanks so much for joining us today. Enjoy the rest of your day and your summer.
Thanks, friends.
Thank you, Tim.